What's up everybody? So today we're going to talk about the question of, does strength training transfer to sprinting? If you look at the research, there's a fair bit of it that suggests you can get some transfer from strength training to sprinting, so you'll run faster to a certain distance if you get stronger. Now, the improvements that you're going to see from strength training, if we're looking at like a direct transfer, like you get stronger, then you sprint faster, that's really only going to happen over short distances like 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, something like that. Moral of the story is, the shorter the distance you're trying to improve at, the more strength training is going to help you. So if you suck getting out of the blocks, you probably need to get stronger. If you're great to 30 meters, but then you die from 30 to 60 or 30 to 100, that's a different story. You probably have different problems than not being strong enough. But in general, strength training will transfer to shorter distance sprints. So why do we train for strength as sprinters? If we're not going to see a direct improvement in our maximal velocity or our 100 meter time as a result of strength training, why would we do it? Well, with strength training, what we're doing, or what we're trying to do, is apply a large systemic stress to the organism, to the human body, to drive adaptation and the enhancement of physical qualities. So physical qualities could include maximal strength, tissue strength, motor unit activation, hypertrophy, rate of force development, physical qualities related to force production or the ability to handle high forces throughout the body. We do not perform strength training to enhance a sport-specific skill directly. Instead, we're just trying to enhance the underlying physical qualities which are supportive of those movement skills, and then we go do our sport-specific training or we go do our sprint training to improve the skills themselves. So I think it's important that you separate in your head, when you're thinking about training, you separate the concept of using stress to create an adaptation that improves a physical quality, like a certain type of output, versus training to enhance movement skill or training to enhance a certain type of skill that is relevant to your sport. So how does getting stronger relate to sprinting? Well, in sprinting, we need to apply horizontal and vertical forces to the ground rapidly and repeatedly. By getting stronger, we put ourselves in a better position with regard to our physical qualities to be able to apply more force when we sprint. That doesn't mean that getting stronger at the squat, deadlift, and Olympic lift or whatever will guarantee an improvement in our skill expression, but it does mean that our capacity to apply more force within any given movement will be increased. Strength training also helps improve overall work capacity, resilience to stress, and reduces the likelihood of injury when sprinting. Stronger muscles can endure more tension and can put out more overall work than weaker muscles, so this makes them less prone to injury and enhances their work capacity. And strength training helps to improve the ability of the ATP creatine phosphate energy system to produce force in short time frames and can help improve the work capacity of the athlete in ATHLETE.X exercise. So if we want to be able to do more short sprints at practice, if we want to be able to sprint and not get injured, if we want to have the capacity to apply more force to the ground, and then as we get better at sprinting, we use that capacity and start applying more force to the ground, then we need to do strength training. Now, if we think about transferability of strength to sprinting itself, like I said earlier, for the most part, shorter distance sprints will see the greatest transfer from general strength training than longer sprints, and this is due to the nature of early acceleration. Early acceleration requires that the athlete produce horizontal force to overcome inertia. It exhibits longer ground contact times that allow for larger horizontal propulsive impulses to be produced. And overall, the qualities developed through general strength training means are more relatable to early acceleration, therefore you'll see more of a direct transfer. But I believe that we still will see some transfer to maximal velocity sprinting once the athlete has the skills in place to sprint fast. Then the adaptations you get from strength training can still benefit you, whether that's having greater knee and ankle stiffness when you're on the ground and sprinting, whether that's having a higher rate of force development and being able to produce force in shorter time frames, being able to do more maximal velocity or speed endurance reps because you have a well-built ATP creatine phosphate and a lactic glycolytic system. All of those qualities that are going to come downstream from getting stronger are going to benefit you. So when we think about it, just to sort of wrap things up, strength training will transfer to short distance sprints. It will not transfer directly to longer distance sprints, but it will raise your capacity to be fast by being stronger. Now, when we say strength training, I think that that should mean at some point in the year, you're doing heavy, full range of motion strength training where you're trying to move the bar as fast as possible, but the bar speed is not remarkably high in and of itself. You're trying to move it as fast as you can, but that doesn't mean you're doing some herky-jerky movement with, 10 pounds on the bar. You need to be moving heavy weights as fast as you can if you want it to transfer to sprinting. Eventually, you can start to modify the ranges of motion, modify the time under tension to be less disruptive and less fatiguing so that you can have more energy available to you when you go out to, do your really highly specific sprint workouts closer to competition. That's all well and good, but there needs to be some period of time where you're spending time doing heavy strength training. If you do that, you do some form of, plyometrics, pogo hops, bounding, things like that, and you do sprint training, you're gonna get faster. Now, everyone has a genetic ceiling. Everybody has a point at which they will stop getting faster, but until you reach that point, getting stronger is gonna help. Now, as you do strength training, we need to be lifting heavy loads. What I would suggest to you is to avoid lifting so heavy that it becomes a grinding rep. So what is a grinding rep? That's like if you're lifting, say you're deadlifting, and it takes you 5 seconds to complete the lift, that's probably too heavy. Yes, will that get you stronger? Probably, but it's probably also gonna make you slower. So I'm not saying that you should be doing grinding 100% 1 RMs all the time. But if you're hanging out between, 75 and 95% at any given point in time in your strength training, you're moving the bar fast enough to where it's not a grinding rep. You're moving a heavy enough load to where it's stimulating high threshold motor units. You're recruiting a lot of muscle, and you're really having to apply force to the bar. And as long as you don't do too much, you don't need to lift every single day, and you don't need to do 500 exercises, but you can pick maybe do 3 exercises in a lift. You do some jumping, you do an Olympic lift, and you squat or deadlift or bench press or something like that. If you do that, and you do that regularly over the course of a year, and you get gradually stronger over time, and you stay healthy and you continue to do your sprint training, you're gonna be in a better position to run faster. And that's the moral of the story here. You need to be doing some form of strength training. It needs to be heavy. You don't need to do too much. You don't need to do too many exercises, but you need to be doing some. And if you do that, you do it in a sane way, you're going to see it transfer to your sprinting, particularly short distance sprints, but you will see some, indirect or secondary type of transfer to other aspects of sprinting beyond short acceleration distances. And therefore, I put it in all my programs, and I think you should too. So thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time. This is Cody Bidlow with sprintingworkouts.com and ATHLETE.X, signing off.